I know you are all tired and hungry, but I swear to you that even if these men were hanging from the clouds by their fingertips, we would pull them down before nightfall. Now, let all those who love me follow me!
What is up, YouTube? Live via satellite here, and today we are talking Kingdom, manga chapter 548. Yeah, man, this was another excellent chapter of Kingdom. I mean, I think I'm just gonna record myself saying that and just play it every time I start a review because, I mean, it's just the truth. But if I was a nitpicker, there would be one thing I could complain about, and it's actually something that kind of bothered me. And last week, I was so busy loving the chapter, getting caught up in all the emotions, that the one thing that kind of bugged me about the chapter, I just let it go. I let it go. In all fairness to you guys, I didn't bring it up. I slid it under the rug, didn't want to make a big deal about it. But then this week came, and it happened again. So I already let it slide the first time. But this time, you owe it to the people. You owe it to the people. If something ain't right, you gotta put it out there. I didn't want to have to do this. I gotta call Har out. I gotta call him out on something. And it's Oki's lips. These lips are just too damn small. Like, these are not Oki's lips. Like, whose lips are these? Like, this man is known for his lips. His lips are legendary. And I know the art's improved in this manga since Oki's been, dead. But this new Oki, the lips are just, they're just not there. Besides Jay-Z and Angelina Jolie, Oki was the poster child for big lips. He made big lips cool. But changing to a more positive subject, it looks like Kyoukai'S finally gonna get her chance to shine. Seeing her take command this chapter was awesome, and it looks like she's actually even about to go into her priestess dance. And it feels like it's been forever since we've seen it. And I have to admit, it's got me kinda hyped, because Kyoukai, unlike most fighters, knows exactly when to dance.
Jab to follow it up. Again with the jab.
Always sinks!
So the chapter picks up right where we left off last week, and Gi-eun finds himself being hit by a haymaker from Shin. He's hit so hard that he nearly falls off his horse, and his soldier's jaws almost hit the floor, but Shin is not done yet, as he rushes in to smack Gi-eun around some more. And Shin's men tell him to keep it up. But at the moment, Shin's mind is still wrapped around what Gi-eun said to him previously, about how he did nothing to deserve Oki's glaive. And as he's giving Gi-eun pretty much a one-sided beatdown, he wants to see if he's able to keep up all that talk, especially seeing as Gi-eun thinks Shin's blows are too light. And this should be a valuable lesson for Gi-eun. This is why you don't talk trash, because it always comes back to haunt you.
Of you two being rude, talking about whatever it is you're talking about, in whatever language it is that you're speaking, okay? This is America, and you get it right the first time. You get it right the first time. Get it right the first time. Get it right the first time, okay?
And just as you think things couldn't be going any better for Shin, we see a look on Gi-eun's face as if to say, alright, you've had your fun, now it's my turn. And with that, he throws a haymaker of his own, nearly knocking Shin from his horse, and Shin actually finds himself a bit confused by this sudden turn of events.
Nani?
But Gi-eun acknowledges Shin, saying that he is strong and that it does give him a bit of relief, and that it does appear that he has the right to carry that glaive, which Shin thinks should have been obvious, but Gi-eun says it's not all that simple because it's not all about martial prowess. But the more important question is whether or not Shin understands the strength of a man. And what Gi-eun says here is very interesting, and we'll talk a lot more about that at the end of the review. But by Shin's face and response, Gi-eun can tell that he isn't self-aware of it. But at the same time, it really doesn't matter because this will be the place of his death. And he even takes it a step further, saying that the blaze on the other side of the battlefield will reduce Shin's unit to cinders, and that he himself will fall to Gyun's blade, wiping out their existence here on the Kyoukai plains. But Shin warns Gyun here never to underestimate the High Shin unit, and the only thing disappearing around these parts is Gyun's fire. Back over at the High Shin unit HQ, Ten's getting reports about what exactly is going on the battlefield, but the one thing she hasn't received is news on what's currently going on with Shin. But her officers say from the looks of things, it looks as if they're still dueling, and they ask Ten if they should send any men over there. But Ten doesn't think that would be a good move. She thinks right now they just need to trust that Shin will be able to handle the duel with Gyun, because at the moment they really need to focus on the fact that Insan's position is actually becoming very dangerous. Ten realizes that if they lose this battlefield, things could spiral out of control to the point that even if Shin was to win against Gyun, they could still possibly lose the battle. And thinking about Shin losing even if he defeats Gyun is rough. Having a victory snatched away when you thought you clinched it is pretty brutal.
Oh, I'm gonna land top this car. Oh, it's gonna be taped. Yes! Yes! No!
And over on that battlefield, we see that things are heating up even more. En is actually trying to keep his men in formation and slightly withdraw. While on the next panel, we see that Kanto and the other newbies are being instructed by Shosa to follow him. Over at Garo, he's starting to realize that things have pretty much broken out into a melee. Their formations mean absolutely nothing, and that things have pretty much turned into a clash of raw strength. And on every front, they're being pushed back, and that if it continues, they'll be the ones in trouble. And as the gravity of the situation begins to weigh on him, his thoughts are interrupted by Kyoukai arriving on the scene, which I would think in most cases is a good thing. But he still wonders what exactly is she doing here. And Kyoukai lets him know, getting straight to business, that they need to come up with some sort of strategy before they're swallowed up by Gyun's army. But Garo cannot understand what she's getting at. He thinks it's a bit too late. In the middle of all of this chaos, how does she plan to come up with some sort of stratagem? And when I first read this, I actually thought that Kyoukai was coming to Garo for maybe some advice or some help to come up with the plan. But we soon find out that Kyoukai already has a plan in mind, telling Garo that his part to play in the plan is to set up an anchor point and redirect enemies to his right. And Garo can't believe what he's hearing, but Kyoukai simply repeats herself to let Garo know how serious she is about this. But with the way the line is being currently pushed back, Garo doesn't believe they could hold that position, let alone be able to redirect the flow of the enemy. But Kyoukai says that he must, and that is exactly why she brought Ryusen and his men there. And I just thought this was really cool right here, because not only did Kyoukai come with a plan, she actually came with the reinforcements to be able to help Garo get the plan done. And she even goes further on to say that on the other side of the battlefield, that Sosui and some of the other heavyweights are doing the exact same thing, only they're redirecting the enemies to the left side. And then we see Garo realize what Kyoukai is actually up to. She's actually trying to set up 2 blockades to actually funnel all the enemies right down the center. But Garo really doesn't understand the point of this, because he says if the enemy is able to break through their center, then everything will be over in an instant. And Kyoukai says she knows this, but if they do nothing at all, their defeat is all but guaranteed. And she tells Garo that she'll be the one to handle the center just for him to do his job. And he calls after Kyoukai, but she rides off, leaving him probably feeling just a tad bit worse than when she arrived initially. And it doesn't seem like Garo was on board with this plan, but ultimately he decides to trust in Kyoukai and tells one of his men to send for Boss Gakurai, because they're going to dig in right there. And it's funny they brought up Gakurai, because I was actually starting to wonder where's he actually been all this time. Then we see Kyoukai riding across the battlefield, arriving in front of Shosa and Sugen. And she asks were they able to gather up the foot soldiers. And Sugen lets her know that they've gathered up all they could spare. And I thought this was pretty awesome because we got our answer to what Sugen was up to last week. And even though it turns out that he wasn't on his way to help Shin like I initially thought, it does still show that Kyoukai's plans were already underway in the last chapter. And while Kanto and the other rookies are wondering why they've actually been pulled away from the fighting, Kyoukai actually notices some of her own unit, and she asks her men if they're too tired to keep going. And even though all of them look completely worn out, none of them want to disappoint Kyoukai, and they all tell her of course not. And as some of the men are admiring the Kyoukai unit's morale, Shosa's the one to get down to business and cut to the chase, asking Kyoukai what is it that she's trying to cook up in the middle of all this. And Kyoukai tells him that she's set up 2 blockades to basically create a bottleneck and to funnel all of the enemy directly to their location. And that their job is to hold the position and wipe out the enemy in one fell swoop. And Kyoukai definitely didn't mince words. She's very straightforward. She has no idea how to soften the blow.
I have a really dry throat and I'm nervous.
Amy, you could lie in a bath with your mouth open and you still wouldn't sing. But it's true!
Stop it!
And the men's reaction says it all. They cannot believe the mission that Kyoukai has signed them up for. And in front of them, the lines that are holding all these funnels out are starting to crumble. And looking at Bihei's unit, you can't help but to laugh, because not too long ago, Bihei and Ko were trying to play dead just to survive, to now only find themselves in an even worse predicament. But Shosa asks Kyoukai, are you not sure that we're not the ones who will be getting wiped out? And Kyoukai, the straight talker she is, tells Shosa it is possible. But if they had done nothing, they would have lost all the same. And as she drops down off her horse, she says, which is why she'd rather gather up all their hard-hitting infantry and take them here, because at least that still offers a small chance. And she even points out the fact that most of their men are infantry just like theirs. But many of the men can't believe that Kyoukai has actually dismounted from her horse, which Sugen actually questions her about, but Kyoukai says she's better at taking out larger numbers that way, which is a point validated by Sosha, saying that having Kyoukai with them is like having 100 men. But even still, Kyoukai isn't sure they can win. And without Shin there to boost morale, Sugen takes the lead, telling the men that this is the biggest fight of their lives and that everything up till now will look like playtime in comparison. But know this. Whoever wins this clash will be the one to win the entire battle. And with that, we see some of the men have had their fighting spirit restored. But as the front lines completely begin to break down and the floodgates are opened, you see some of the men begin to lose their resolve in the face of overwhelming odds. Shosa, knowing this, asks Kyoukai to give one more word for the youngsters. And Kyoukai, breathing deep, preparing for what must be done, says fine, fine. And with what would appear to be a sea of Zhao in front of her, she turns around to face her men and says, together we shall fight and together we shall grasp victory today. And with those words, what appears to be the final clash of Giyun's great blaze has begun. And that was the chapter in a nutshell, guys. And this chapter was another great chapter of Kingdom, guys. It felt like horror packed so much into it. It almost felt like we got 2 chapters in one. And that last panel with Kyoukai, man, really stood out to me. Just seeing how many Zhao soldiers are coming for them, horror was really able to capture that moment. Just seeing her a few moments before saying fine, fine, and taking a deep breath. You know the situation is bad, but you really don't get to see how bad until she actually turns around to boost up the morale of the soldiers. And I thought that was executed perfectly. Now the question is, how good will Kyoukai's plan actually work? Because even she's not that sure in it at the moment. And that's just with regular soldiers coming at her. Because you gotta think that there's gonna be somebody in that Giyun army commanding them, and that Kyoukai may have to go one-on-one against, which might make things even tougher than they already are. But another thing I wonder is if Ten would actually be able to lend any sort of assistance, because when we saw her at the HQ, one of the soldiers was asking if they should send soldiers to help Shin out. So I don't know if they would be taking those soldiers from the current battlefield that Kyoukai was already on, or if they have soldiers with them at the HQ. But if she actually has some soldiers at her own disposal, I would think she would be able to see what Kyoukai is doing and actually send some reinforcements her way, which would definitely help to make Ten look a lot better than she's been looking in recent chapters. All that said, it was cool to see Kyoukai take the limelight and take center stage on the back end of this chapter, because it's been a while since we actually got some good Kyoukai development. She's actually been in the background for a while. Even though she's been there, you haven't really gotten much out of her. So it was really cool to see some of the quirks in her personality and to actually see her boost morale before going into battle. Moving back to the beginning of the chapter, we got to see more of the fight between Shin and Giyun. And toward the end of this first clash, we actually get Giyun's acknowledgement of Shin. But what I found most interesting was when Giyun started talking about the strength of a man. So to me, it seems like Giyun's talking about something that shows why generals are as powerful as they are. And I don't think he's talking about weight here, because Shin would obviously know about that because he was there when Oki died, so he heard all about weight. So I think he's talking about something different. And the funny thing is, I think I came across what he may have been talking about while doing research for a different video. But during the battle between Kanmei and Mobu, Jinno is saying that they're both on an equal level. And some of the men ask Jinno, does that mean that Kame could possibly lose to Mobu? But Jinno says Mobu doesn't have the slightest chance of winning. And he says this is because a duel between generals is more than simple combat prowess. It involves strength that stems from their rank as a general, from everything they have achieved and built up as a general. And he says it's something that him as a strategist can't even understand. And then we see Shohiken mention it in the very next chapter when Mobu finds himself being overwhelmed by Kame. And Shohiken says, if we are to assume that a general's strength is linked to all the myriad achievements one has accomplished in their career, then Kame could very possibly be the strongest man in all of China right now. And being that Shin has a lot of accomplishments, I think he's been unknowingly growing it all along. And I think the best example of this is during his battle with Renko, when he's pretty much losing to Renko. During the middle of battle, he gets this feeling that the reason some of these generals are so strong is because they were able to overcome their limits in the heat of battle over and over again. And even after the battle, Kyoukai notices that Shin's aura has grown. So this definitely has some potential to possibly be what Yoon was talking about, or it could be something altogether new that we've never heard of before. But I did think it was worth bringing up to you guys and seeing what your opinions were on it. But other than that, guys, that about does it for this week's review. Let me know what you guys thought of the chapter in the comment section below. Please leave a like if you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to share, comment, and subscribe. Peace out!